Taoiseach, the Minister for Housing made, to my mind, a very reckless, irresponsible and somewhat bizarre comments on the rising homelessness situation at the weekend, where he suggested that that it was to do with the number of European Economic Area and non-economic area, which, by the way, is everybody in the world, refugees coming into the country, but not Ukrainians. Now, first of all, I just find it a bizarre statement for him to make, but it seems to me like reckless deflection, but with a potentially dangerous sort of subtext, which some of the far right, worryingly, have already tried to pick up on, and it needs to be completely disabused. The reason the homelessness figures are going through the roof at the moment is because we had an eviction ban which was effective during COVID, and a rent increase ban during COVID, and then you removed those things and the situation has got worse since then. Because the vast majority of people, and they're the ones coming into my clinic week in, week out, who end up in homeless services, end up there because they are evicted by landlords on grounds of sale when they've done absolutely nothing wrong, or because rents are absolutely astronomical and they cannot afford them, and the HAP limits won't reach to those levels. So I would just appeal to the Taoiseach and the Minister not to be engaging in dangerous deflection tactics, and actually admit that you need to bring things in like an eviction ban to prevent evictions and to control rents to make them affordable.
The board. And in terms of Deputy Boyd Barrett's point, there are multiple factors underpinning the homeless situation, and it's not simple. And it's not as simple as you've presented either. And I take on board what you've said. But there have been about 6 rental acts brought in. One of the features of the rental situation has been the exodus of many small landlords, people with 1 or 2 houses, from the market, a market that you and others say is very lucrative. Yet many have left in the last 2 to 3 years. And that's a challenge. And I think others have said, and Deputy Barry maybe referenced the fact that other people are using their their B&Bs or whatever, or Airbnb for other purposes, all taking from the housing market itself. The point I'm getting about the smaller landlord situation is we must balance all measures to make sure we continue to get supply into the market, both for rent and for house building. That is absolutely key. And we have to have private sector investment as well as public sector investment. Public sector investment is being provided for $4 billion a year. It's provided from the state through various means for house construction. In addition to that, we'll need up to $5 or $6 billion from the private sector to get the level of house construction that we require in the country. And that's what I mentioned, reference to Build for Rent, for example, and others. I mean, the primary focus of government is social housing and affordable housing, and to get as much private sector development then on top of that, so that we get a broad mix. Deputy Murray raised the HAP issue. As I said to him earlier, we will talk to the authorities in relation to that and the background to it.